Coin traders, what is going on? Thanks for joining me for the show. Looking at the Oasis Network, ROSE, R-O-S-E on that token. Made a post about it yesterday talking about this overall setup and why it was actually so good and looking so nice and exactly what we want to see right now with the second day of follow through on this big move. So just want to talk about it in the show today. And if you do want me to do a little bit of a deeper dive into what the Oasis Network and ROSE actually are, definitely drop me a note in the comment sections below or reach out over on Twitter at coin_trades is the handle over there. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this current formation here because a lot of good things to be said about it. And obviously after a huge pullback like we had for the rest of the crypto space, as you can see, big points of resistance on the 12 and 26 EMAs. Finally, resistance broke above it, so confirmed in between the 26 and 50 as EMA resistance. Pulled back, found this level again, and then a very nice breakout on top of that. Now, like we typically see with a lot of breakouts, what we do want to see is a backtest retracement and actually confirming some of these levels that were previous resistance as very nice support, which we have done. And then obviously once that has happened, what we do want to see is a huge, nice upside move with a lot of confirmation and follow through, which is exactly what we have been seeing. And like we said, a lot of increasing a bullish volume down below, especially for a second day in a row of very nice bullish upside. So yesterday got a very nice bullish candle that closed up over 10%. On the current day, we're about 4 minutes as of time of recording for closing, about 8.5%. So still another great day. At the peak, we were up a lot higher than that. So up to the top of the candle, 12.5%. Obviously a little bit of a sell-off, but that's no big problem, especially with a lot of this great, nice, increasing bullish volume on this overall move. Nice high, setting higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, back testing, and then now higher highs. So very, very good sign as well overall to see for the Oasis Network ROSE. Now, one of the things that we know about ROSE is that it had a very significant sell-off from its current high right now down to the low. So about a 60% pullback, which is on the higher end for a lot of altcoins, but not necessarily that shocking since a lot of altcoins are also in that 60% retracement camp as well. So despite having, unfortunately, a lower low on the longer term trend, we actually didn't necessarily see that much of an overall downside impact. And then especially now after a very nice upside move and that confirmation, looking very nice to actually see some more bullish continuation and a lot higher highs in the overall price here. So pulling up some technicals for this daily, one of the things we're looking at right now is the RSI, how we're getting a little bit of bullish divergence here. So we actually had the low overextended and actually found a higher low, yet despite a lower low in the overall close. So this RSI is set for the close of the prices, not the low. So despite having a lower low than what we found on this move, we're actually looking at the close, which was higher than the close that we actually saw back in the middle of May here. So a little bit of lower lows action happening with higher lows in RSI. And then from there, what we actually had is a very nice bullish cross, continuation and maintaining of this exponential moving average for this RSI, as well as continued upside. So now we're looking at RSI starting to get right around the overbought level. So we are looking at 69.81 as of current time of recording. And like we said, we're about a minute until the actual daily candle closes. Now, if we look at stochastic RSI as well above the 20 line here, and obviously we know that anytime we are above, typically like we have seen before, a little bit of a retrace happening. So not necessarily unrealistic to think that from the current point, especially because we are looking up overhead at resistances, which we'll talk about in a sec, that we could ultimately end up seeing a little bit of a pullback or even some inside bars consolidation and actually sitting sideways, allowing these new exponential moving averages to continue to flip bullish and actually roll to the upside before continuing on further. So if we actually zoom out and we look at some of these resistance points, currently right overhead at one, and then also plenty of points up overhead at another one. So we're looking at 11.709 cents along with 12.196 cents up overhead as a big point, which is exactly where we've seen the price get stuck up. So looking left, big point of support, obviously huge flushing candle broke below that. Looking left even farther, big sideways zone of support and resistance as well before finally going up to our current trend high here. And then even looking left farther, big points of support and resistance as well as the heart line for this overall move. So we know that a very, very strong point up overhead in between the 11.7 to 12.2 levels is going to be exactly what we are looking at in order to actually break. But like we said, probably going to be a little bit of resistance from here, especially if we pull up VPVR, volume profile, visible range. You can see that that is right at the point of the big center of mass. So most of the volume for trading for price has come right in, pretty much right around the 12.1 cent level. So it is going to be a little bit of a struggle, but like we said, not necessarily unrealistic to think we could pull back, find support pretty much right along the 11.3 level, and then ultimately supports down to about 10.91, so effectively the 11 cent mark, and then all the way down to about 10.5. So especially if we can keep seeing on the current the continuation of bullish volume and momentum, despite a potential for an opportunity for a retracement, which is much needed and expected at this point, the current trend and breaking of a lot of these paths and starting to change the full trend of these exponential moving averages in favor of the bullish with continued action and path of least resistance to the upside is definitely favoring more upside movement, especially since a lot of the rest of the crypto space has been starting to show bullish signs and continuation for higher highs as well. But obviously short term does matter, especially since we are going to be looking up overhead at resistances, and especially on a trend like we see out of ROSE, we do actually have a low compared to what we saw on the way up. So actually did break the longer term structure. So with that, flipping over into the weekly chart here, a few things to talk about, and specifically do have to look at the exponential moving averages. Want to turn off the 12 and 26 first, specifically just look at the 50. So huge air gap on top of the 50, pulled back, found a lot of closing support on the weekly before finally flushing below it. Once we actually did flush below it, 2 weeks of confirmation of resistance on this 50, and then finally found our very nice bullish candle that actually closed on top of this 50 last week. So we're only about 2 days into the current weekly candle, huge continuation and fall through to the upside. But last week we got volume of 111.7 million. On the current, only 2 days in, we're at 60.13. So absolutely expecting that we should get higher highs and a new volume peak here for a little bit of increased bullish volume on this weekly, especially after setting our low and now finding some upside, breaking out a lot of these previous levels of price resistance, which also align with this level of weekly close. So a very nice upside move on the current weekly candle. So as long as the bulls can maintain this upside movement and direction for the next 5 days, we're going to print a very nice weekly candle here. But like we said, even if we do have a little bit of a sell-off, still not going to be a bad sign. And especially because the magnitude of this current weekly candle is definitely so significant and strong to the upside, plenty of rooms to still be able to maintain plenty of support on top of these weekly resistances and supports. So specifically looking at a previous weekly support coming in right at the 10-cent psychological mark, just above that resistance on the current at 10.275, and then finally to the downside looking at 9.827. So plenty of support to the downside. So even if we do see a little bit of sell-off, would still expect to actually maintain a close on top of all three of these previous resistance and support zones. So we are still looking extremely good and bullish for the longer term here for the Oasis Network ROSE. So now got the 12 and 26 EMAs turned back on as well. Specifically want to look how it was a very nice support. Finally flushed it, but that does mean likely that we're going to see that as resistance. So huge flush below the 26 and 12, but now we did flip 26 into resistance. So on this current week, it is important to actually see those levels break. And another reason why we do want to form a close pretty much on top of the 12 and 26 right now, very close together. We're looking at the 12 at 10.519, and we're looking at the 26 being 10.458. But overall, given the continuation and action on the shorter term, still expecting this to be a very nice setup to play out. So not necessarily worried about losing these and confirming them still. And so despite losing a lot of these as that support, we have reclaimed them, and now we are proving to push back to the upside, especially after not having these longer term weeklies cross over in a full bearish formation. So still maintaining them, looks like right now in a bullish formation as well, especially since the 12 is on top of the 26, coming in at 10.52 compared to 10.45, with the 50 period EMA on the bottom at 9.438. Flipping over into the 2-day, just had a very nice candle that did just print. So now we're forming a new 2-day candle here. Very nice, especially very nice volume that we have been seeing, especially on these two candles. So a strong looking bullish candle, small bearish candle, and a huge engulfing bullish candle. So a very nice green, red, green setup here in this instance, especially blowing through all of these exponential moving averages, especially after confirming 12 as support. So very good and bullish sign. But like we said, up overhead, Resistance is coming in at 11.723. And that will probably carry out up until about the 13-cent level, so big resistance points up overhead. But the important thing is just that we are above these exponential moving averages now, and we do need to wait for them to actually roll up, so could still take a little bit of time for that to happen. But overall, this is still a very, very nice setup, especially with the magnitude and the volume that we have seen for the overall price chart here on ROSE. Flipping over to the 12-hour and looking a little bit more short-term, like we said, very nice upside movement with plenty of volume, but especially getting stuck up overhead at resistances and being a little bit overextended and overbought here. We are expecting a little bit more of time to actually retrace, kind of like what we saw in plenty of these instances right when we were starting to change this trend back in favor of bullish upside action. So that's pretty much what we do need to see. And if we do see it, that's not necessarily going to be a bad sign or unexpected to see that pull off and cool down. And it doesn't matter necessarily whether we see a flag pattern or some consolidation in a tightening pennant range. We do need to allow these exponential moving averages to move up before being able to actually kick up a little bit further, especially given all of the nice bullish upside action so far, especially now that we are starting to change the trend back in favor of a lot of bullish upside. So overall, a lot of great things right now to be looking at and paying attention to for the Oasis Network ROSE, ROSE on that ticker. And that is going to be wrapping up the show for today, though. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. Also, don't forget to drop me a comment down in the comment sections below. Issues, predictions, comments, disagreements, all that stuff. Do love getting back to each and every one of you. Or feel free to reach out over on Twitter or X too, at @coin_trades is the handle over there. And yeah, with that, that is going to be wrapping it up. Do appreciate all the continued love and support. As always, does mean so much. Stay safe, take care, coin traders, and I'll catch you back in the next video.